Christopher Meyer, the former UK ambassador to the United States. Sir Christopher, thank you very, very much for joining me at this moment in history.
It's quite exciting, isn't it?
Oh, it's very, very exciting, Sir Christopher. I can't tell you. Last time I was in Washington, I met you there and we had a few sherbets down in Jamestown and all that. It's a very exciting city, but it will be buzzing right now, won't it?
It certainly will be buzzing right now because apart from anything else, Washington, D.C. is a democratic city.
Yes.
It's a place where the Democratic Party really holds sway, even if the Republicans are in power. And Democrats will be thrilled to bits. I mean, there are certain formal hoops you have to go through to be absolutely clear that Joe Biden is the next president of the United States, not least the Electoral College meeting on, I think it's December the 14th. But this looks like a certified result in Pennsylvania. And if it is that, he's over the line.
Yep, he's over the line, all right, and he could end up with 306, which historically had put him on the same number as President Trump when he got there 4 years ago. I suppose the biggest question that we've got to try and get the answer to, Sir Christopher, and you're in pole position to give advice on this, is how will the relationship between President-elect Biden and our own Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, develop, emerge? Will there be any hurdles that we've got to get over which are insurmountable?
No, there are no insurmountable hurdles whatsoever. And people have got a bit sort of panicked. And I saw headlines today in some of the Sunday papers about Downing Street rushes to create a relationship with President-elect Biden. There's no need to rush about anything.
Oh, yeah.
Biden doesn't become president until 1 minute past midday on the 20th of January 2021. Yeah. In the meantime, he and his team will be putting together a new administration.
Yes.
And our job, particularly, Mike, the embassy's job in Washington, is to discreetly make contact with the key people who are going to be close to President Biden and don't forget, to Vice President Kamala Harris. And so there'll be a lot of contact building, team building being led by our embassy. And we just need to keep calm and carry on.
So they'll be working hard in the biscuit factory over in Washington, which...
big biscuits. Big biscuits.
No, for the benefit of our listeners, you know, your wonderful embassy building in Washington is one thing, but they called the annex the biscuit factory, didn't they? Which I always thought was a bit unkind. But no, so Christopher, what I'm saying is, what about the people who are sort of banging the drum for the fact that Joe Biden's going to have a problem with our Brexit decision, which is cut and dried, just a question of now on what sort of deal we exit Europe. He wasn't a fan of Brexit. He wasn't a fan of the Europeans breaking up. Is he going to put a spoke in the works with the horrible problem of the hard Irish border, the Northern Ireland Irish situation?
But there's absolutely no reason why any of that should happen.
I agree.
The United Kingdom, even if we have no deal, the United Kingdom's not going to put in a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland.
Yes.
If the European Union choose to do so to preserve, as they put it, the integrity of the single market, we'll let them do it, but it won't be us.
Yeah.
It won't be us. And as long as I can remember, and I first went to the embassy in Washington in, when was it, 1989?
Yes.
Republicans and Democrats have been in favor of the European Union, but they don't fully understand what it means in many cases. So I don't think Brexit in and of itself is going to be a problem.
Okay, you say that, but the situation is so unclear now in the relationship between the United States, and you'll know all about this, and which European leader to choose first as the greatest ally in Europe. Angela Merkel, of course, has got the strongest economy, but probably the weakest military forces. President Macron has got a big, powerful country. They've got military forces, but they've always shown disdain for NATO and disdain for American military power. We have still got a very substantial military force and the connections in the past of supporting the Americans at every turn. And Joe Biden, of course, supported us on the Falklands issue.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think one of the things you've got to get away from here, Mike, is this notion of who's the first European leader who meets President Biden. We've got to get away from the idea it's some kind of beauty contest or some kind of race in which they're all puffing down the line to try and get to Capitol Hill and the White House first.
Yeah.
That is not the case.
Mm.
Actually,
Yeah.
when we leave the European Union once and for all at the end of this year, it'll be in our interest as Brits that the Americans have a good relationship
Yes.
with the European Union
Yes.
and with Macron and with Merkel. It'll
Yeah.
be good for all of us. So I'm entirely relaxed if Biden, say, comes to Europe, goes to Berlin first, then to Paris, then to Brussels,
Yeah.
and comes to us last. So what?
Well,
So what?
Yeah, but what about the image situation? I mean, you know this from a very, very pragmatic point of view. You know how it goes on behind the scenes. But image is another thing, isn't it? You know, the reason European leaders queue up to get there first, you know, when it was Obama, then it was Trump and all that, is because that's soft power in the world, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I think this is enormously exaggerated.
Right.
I mean, there's an immense amount of windy rhetorical talk about the special relationship, something which actually has a very, very little substance. That doesn't mean we don't have a very good relationship with the Americans.
Yep.
The sooner we get off this sort of thing around our feet, albatross around our neck. That's what I was looking for.
Albatross, yes.
Albatross around the neck.
Yeah.
Of the special relationship, the better. That is not the benchmark by which to measure our relationship.
Yeah.
The fact is, we have unique features in our relationship which no other European has, and you've kind of touched on it. Yeah. Intelligence, the intelligence cooperation,
yes.
The defense, integrated naval forces around our huge aircraft carriers.
Yes.
And the ability to project power beyond our borders. Now, only the French can rival us on that, and they don't like NATO, but we love NATO, and we are still putting in 2% of our GDP or 2.5% of our GDP into defence, which is more than our European allies are doing.
That's right. I think the French have only got the one aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle, which is not quite
it's about 500 years old.
I was about to say it's not quite as modern as the two we've now got in commission, which is going to cost us an awful lot of money to keep them going. What about the domestic situations on both sides of the Atlantic, Sir Christopher? So what I'm saying is, did Boris Johnson in any way feel that his attitude towards COVID in this country might have been influenced a bit by the dismissal with which President Trump treated it in his country? What I'm saying is, will Boris Johnson in some way feel relieved that he hasn't got the spectre of the President of the United States, Donald Trump, now looking at everything he does?
I'm pretty damn sure that Boris Johnson and his whole cabinet are deeply relieved that Donald Trump has left the scene.
Is that right? Really?
I think that, and there are two reasons for this.
Right.
One is his unpredictability and inconsistency and sort of jumping all over the place. You never knew what he was going to do next. Yeah. And the other thing is that on the substance of the issues, he and we didn't agree. Yeah. He didn't. He was hostile to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was which we have now decided to join.
Yes.
He was hostile to the Paris Climate Change Agreement, which we are members of. He was hostile to the multilateral agreement on Iranian nuclear fusion and fission, and whatever the thing is called.
Yes.
And Trump pulled out of that agreement. And there's probably two or three other things I could say where our interests and Trump's interests diverge radically. Yeah. And what we can expect, I think, with Biden is a return to a more orderly form of foreign policy where the key issues of substance converge with ours. Yeah. And once that penny drops or that dollar drops, and people understand that on both sides of the Atlantic, there'll be an end to all this stupid talk about being the third, the fourth, the fifth, or the sixth foreign leader to be visited by Joe Biden. Plus, he's got. Sorry, I'm really banging on. But
no, I want you to. I want you to.
But he's also got some key advisors, two of whom I have in mind, who have worked very closely with the Brits over a very long time. And I'm talking about Susan Rice, the former American ambassador to the United Nations, and the former national security advisor to Barack Obama, and a guy who's a great friend of my wife and mine when we were in Washington, Anthony Blinken,
Right.
who is a former Deputy National Security Advisor and a former Deputy Secretary of State. These guys know about us,
Right.
and they will be very close to Joe Biden.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and that's interesting. And can I also say, because again, this is a diplomatic stage that we can get onto, the next climate accord, which is called COP26, is in Glasgow next year. Now,
Yes.
won't that be a brilliant opportunity for a meeting of minds?
Well, it certainly will be a meeting of people because, you get these huge multilateral conferences. They're sort of vast, great sort of things. And one of their most important aspects is not the subject necessarily under discussion, but all the talks that go on in the corridors and the side rooms and the coffee rooms and all that. There will be ample opportunity for what we call conference diplomacy, which is stuff in the sidelines.
Yeah.
And you'll get that at the climate change conference in Glasgow,
Yeah.
and also at I think it's the G20 meeting, which is taking place in London at some point next year.
Indeed.
And then if we join the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is what Boris Johnson and Dominic Raab have said,
It's a backdoor way, isn't it? Backdoor way of trading with them. Yeah.
So we'll find out.
Okay, just one final point. And to Christopher, I can't thank you enough for your time, because you are a man in demand now. You're a man who knows what's going on in this incredibly exciting moment when the new President of the United States has just been announced. What do you think about Kamala Harris and the view that she's very left-wing and that she might have a much greater influence on any president since the Second World War?
Well, I'm extremely skeptical about that interpretation. And I think, first of all, because if you look at Kamala Harris's career, it is not particularly left-wing.
Yeah.
It is not particularly left-wing. And she has been rather pragmatic in the way she has positioned herself throughout her career. So I'm not worried about that. The other thing is, it's not just a question of she influencing him. Each of them have got a vast array, a phalanx of advisors and courtiers around them.
Yes.
It's like having courts in a medieval kingdom.
Yeah.
And if Kamala Harris gets a bit too uppity as vice president, she'll get slapped down, not necessarily by Biden himself, but those surrounding him.
I see.
So my advice to her, and she wouldn't listen to me for 1 second, is, enjoy the job, and in due course you'll be in a very good position to run for president. Yeah. But don't overstep the mark.
Absolutely fantastic. Christopher, I can't thank you enough. One correction I've just got to make is that it was actually Georgetown where you and I went for a few drinks in Washington, because Jamestown's a bit further away, isn't it?
Oh, did you say Jamestown?
Yeah, I did. I said Jamestown at the start. No, I meant Georgetown.
Well, that's miles away.
Yeah, exactly. No, Georgetown. It was a piano bar, I remember, in Georgetown.
Oh, yes, I know it well.
Absolutely. We had a few sherbets there. So, Christopher Meyer, thank you very much